Good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. And of course, I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL, and we have an outstanding topic-packed show for you. Lots of big topics that are meaty, that are going to take up a significant amount of the show. We're going to open up with some somber news regarding our brother Dizzy, who unfortunately succumbed to not only COVID-19, but he was also battling lung cancer, and we lost him this week. I'm going to be dropping a link into the chat. And listen, I want to just throw this up there right away. If you are interested in dropping a super chat, instead, I would kindly ask that you go over and you take the $2 or $5 or even more than that and drop it into the link. It is a GoFundMe. That every dime goes to Dizzy's wife. Obviously, she is dealing with a lot, and she has been his rock. I would dare call her Wonder Woman. And now she's left to take care of their very beautiful and small son. So obviously, we are going out of our way to try and get every dollar that we can to that family in need. And of course, this is a week, folks. I listen to the news every day because I like to keep up to date, and it's depressing. But I think that this week more than ever, we are hurting as a community for a lot of reasons. Obviously, Dizzy is no longer with us, but right before that, we lost another brother who I unfortunately did not get a chance to actually work with in the Nintendo Guru. There is obviously a GoFundMe that both my wife and I have already contributed to, and I'm going to put both links in there. And again, I know money's tight for a lot of people, so I would ask, instead of dropping a super chat here today, you take that money and you go directly to the link and send them whatever you can. It would be greatly appreciated by me, and of course, it'd be unbelievably appreciated by the family. And obviously, that's what we do in these streets. We stick together. And on tomorrow, on the Iron Lords podcast, they're going to be doing a Zoom stream where at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're just going to be remembering Dizzy and what he meant to this community, what he did for lordsofgaming.net. And hopefully you can stop by, and obviously we're going to be dropping that link in there so you can try and help support the family during a very, very tough time. But let's get into the introductions, and we'll get right into the show notes so we can actually, end the show on a positive note. We're going to start with the cog that keeps this show running each and every week. Please welcome the very brave and intelligent good friend of mine, good friend of this community, Zemi Games.
Well, thank you so much, Boom. Super excited to be here, man, as always. And I can't wait to jump into these topics that you lined up for us today. I've been spending most of my time playing Crusader Kings 3 on my PC, when I really should actually be playing Halo. So you and me and the rest of our team can hopefully eventually beat 3-bit. But yeah, man, super excited to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here, and yes, I think we're going to do some real justice this weekend. We play first up against Noof Nukem and that crew, and sorry, Noof, we're gonna have to take you down, brother. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting. That's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. I believe Joe is going to be streaming it from his Discord. I would prefer him to do it because obviously he has a much better computer than I do. So but we're going to be that match, or best of matches, is going to be live, and the cash prize that was originally thought to be to one of the winners is being fully donated to Dizzy's family. So we're basically playing for his family. So win, lose, or draw, the family is going to walk away with the prize money, and I think that's thanks to Wilmy Hood and Fork Boy Gaming. They have been at the forefront of this, and they put this tournament together, and I love the idea of them taking the prize money, because we don't, at this point, I would have donated it if we would have won anyway. So it's great that we're just playing for fun, and that the family is going to reap the rewards of us killing each other in Halo whichever one it may be, Halo 5, Halo 4, Halo 3. But let's continue next. First of all, let's get. Now, I was told that I was calling him Box a Burger. A Box-a-Bear, and it's actually not Box-a-Bear, but somehow or another, this community has now started calling Archimedes Box-a-Bear, thanks to Boomstick. Archimedes, thanks for being here, brother, and I'm sorry about the name change.
Dude, don't worry about it. I love it. This community can be so awesome. Having a lot of fun with that. Yeah, but I want to send also out my condolences to Dizzy's wife and of course his son. I was speechless when I heard the news the other day. He and I, we chatted on a regular basis in the DMs. Such a great guy, such a positive guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really a sad week. We lost a great community member, and I highly encourage everyone to take part of the Iron Lord stream. It's awesome what they are doing for his family, and yeah. Thanks for having me today. It's a little sad that we have to start with such a topic at the beginning, but I hope we are still having an awesome show today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being here, and yeah, unfortunately, we had to start off with some somber news, but we are going to finish off strong and positive, which is what we do on this program each and every time we go live. Next up, let's introduce one of our special guests. Now, you know him as the rookie sensation, Pong Soul, making the rounds not only again on an Xbox program, but he is on quite a few programs weekly. Pong, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Boom. And yeah, first of all, let me just add blessings to both of the families of the great community members that we lost. Did not know them well, but obviously had interacted with iDizzy in some chats. And from what everybody says, we lost some light in the world this week, and definitely blessings to both families. You hate to have to hear anything like that happening. But definitely a somber mood, but let's try to get the show going. Always love being here, Boom. We've got a great panel today. I finally get to be on a show with my man VJ. So I'm completing all my checklists here of the people that I need to be on shows with. So that's fantastic. And you have a stellar list of topics today, and I think we're going to have some great discussions about it. Excited to be here. Been playing a bunch of different stuff. Call of Duty Cold War with the new Outbreak event. I know. It's Call of Duty, but you know what? The Outbreak event is actually really good, and I'm not a big zombies guy, and so that's been a lot of fun. Otherwise, had to help 3-Bit out last night into the wee hours of the morning with some Division 2 action. We got to get him up to his shade level, so we hopped on and played for about 4.5 hours last night there. So, nice. Yeah, absolutely good time, and we still got more to do, but we're getting them there. So, otherwise, you know what? It's a Thursday. I'm playing hooky from work right now to be here, so let's do this.
Well, I definitely appreciate you playing hooky from work. And obviously, thank you for, of course, raising 3-Bit's level up, because he's going to need it, certainly. But 3-Bit, welcome back to the program, dude. Hopefully you are doing well. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Thanks so much, Boom. Excited to be here. We got some great topics here today. And definitely my condolences to our fellow community member. Sad to hear this happen. It's always a pleasure being on the show with you guys, and I've been playing a couple of games, jumping around in Division, like Pong was saying. He's helping me out. Grand Theft Auto 5 and then Halo, and I'm doing a video with my sister later today, so look out for that. And nice. Let's get the show on the road.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being here. And last and no way least, someone that I think we all appreciate, who I think makes us more intelligent every time we podcast with them. Please welcome the incredible vocabulary, well-spoken, rounded-off gamer, VJ. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good morning, Boom. Good morning, everyone. Sorry I'm a little bit late, Boom. But yeah, no, it's I've just been listening to what everyone's been saying, so I'm definitely going to be tuning into the Iron Lord podcast tomorrow, and my condolences to the family. And but one thing I'd like to say, I'm really glad that you've upgraded on that terrible Mr. Bad bit with Pong Sol. That's fantastic to see.
Oh, I agree, VJ. I agree.
Yeah, Mr. Badbit took the week off. If you didn't know, he was very close with Nintendo Guru. He was also very responsible for setting up a lot of the GoFundMe and getting the community to know what was going on with that. So obviously he'll be back in his chair next week. So we, of course, he's just taking some time off to kind of catch up and I guess get his emotions in order because right now he's cranky, Mr. Badbit, and nobody likes a cranky Mr. Badbit. We like a happy, excited, and energetic Mr. Badbit. He will be back next week. But I want to open up the show with a topic that, again, with when you cover specifically a particular brand, sometimes you have weeks that you have way too many topics, and one week like this particular one you have where you have really two really good ones, and we have really good ones for you. But I want to open up the show with how Microsoft should respond. And yeah, so you might be asking, well, what am I talking about? Respond to what? Well, obviously we're early into 2020. We're in the third month of the year already, and we've seen Nintendo a Nintendo Direct, which was the first real Direct since September of 2019. And of course, like many, I walked away. I felt it was so-so. I thought it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't what I expected. And then you fast forward to the PlayStation State of Play. Now, depending on who you ask, some people gave it a 10, some people gave it a 2. I gave it a 6. It wasn't everything I wanted. A lot of smaller games, which I do appreciate because it's not all AAA for me. But I wasn't really blown away. It seemed, at least for me, that PlayStation was grasping at straws because they didn't have a lot to show. And that's what the show felt like. And actually, that's kind of what Nintendo felt like. So my question to the chat, as well as, of course, to the esteemed panel that I have here, is how Microsoft should respond. How should Xbox respond? Now, we did hear, and we have been hearing, of the rumored March event that is supposed to happen, whether that be a blog post, whether that be an Xbox Wire article, or a straight up show with potentially, Phil Spencer sitting down with the people from Bethesda to kind of talk about what is going to happen at this, once the paperwork is signed. And then we had that Dual Shockers article come out, and they said something to the effect that there was going to be some big show and that Elden Ring was going to be shown off. And then, of course, Aaron Greenberg last week came out and put the kibosh on that. So we don't know what they're doing, but I think they need to do something. And I think they have an opportunity to get the people talking about Xbox in a big way. And I mean that is because two shows came out. Two shows, most people, again, not diehard fans, but most people walked away slightly disappointed. The question is, how should Microsoft respond? Now, Zemi Games, I want to go to you first on this. And why do that? I'm going to back out. I want to reset my computer because for some reason the footage is running in slow motion, which shouldn't be doing that. So just take the lead for a minute. I'll be back. Just answer the question if you don't mind. How should Microsoft respond?
Yeah, no problem. So the way that I look at it is, the Nintendo event was a good event, but it wasn't, mind-blowingly awesome, amazing. They didn't show what I would imagine their really big hits and the really big things that are coming to the Nintendo brand this year and in 2022, same as the PlayStation event, right? And because it wasn't, a massive show that's warranting a ton of conversation, I think that it doesn't put the same amount of pressure on Xbox if Nintendo or PlayStation would have came out and shown some really, really big cards. And so for that reason, I don't think it's necessary for Xbox to really have to come out and do a show. I think that they will. Of course, we have the rumored Bethesda show in March of this year, I think mid-March or something like that. And then I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't have some form of a show in maybe April, showing off some of their smaller titles. But I think that we're going to see a lot of the really big, heavy hitting titles, like, see new gameplay for Halo and some other titles, maybe some unannounced titles, maybe even some studio acquisitions during their E3 kind of replacement show. That's the way that I look at it. I think that they're going to show their small stuff first, possibly in April, and then later on they're going to show their big stuff closer to around when E3 would happen. And because PlayStation and Nintendo didn't really have the biggest of shows, I don't think it's really necessary. I don't think it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Xbox to come out and show their big cards, really whatsoever. And I mean, that's ultimately just, my take on this. But Pong Soul, same question. How do you feel about it? Do you think Xbox needs to have a show to kind of counteract what Nintendo and PlayStation did? Or do you maybe agree a little bit closer to my side of thinking on this?
Well, I think it's kind of a combination. I think I get where you're coming from here, Zemi, as far as whether or not they actually need to make a point to, counter those shows. I think it's going to happen more organically with Microsoft, just because of the simple, just because. Let's start with number one. They have the ZeniMax deal, right? And they're going to have something to show off that acquisition when it's complete, when the ink dries, right? So they're going to have something there already. And that show by itself is going to overshadow what Nintendo and Sony did anyways, just because of the size of the deal, right? Because it's so big in the gaming world. And because it's such, it's probably one of the biggest acquisitions in the history.
Yeah, it's basically landscape reshaping.
Right.
It reshapes the landscape in gaming. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, also at E3, Bethesda literally has their own show within E3.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
So just having that, announcement of the finalization of that deal is going to overtake whatever they just showed through the direct and through the state of play. So, and then going forward, because of the sheer volume of content that Microsoft now has in the works, right? They're going to be kind of doing their own thing. I've said this a couple times on other shows, that's going to be the interesting challenge that Microsoft has going forward, not worrying about what Nintendo's doing or what PlayStation's doing anymore, not worrying about counteracting any big announcements, right? Microsoft now has, or Xbox, I should say, now has so many studios that are going to be making games and new things to show us, that the challenge is going to be for Xbox and Phil and the team is to make sure that all of that content has a proper spotlight and that they are able to show us, their roadmap going forward, and just laying it all out, because time frame wise, they are going to have so many different games to line up and to try to figure out, release dates and, kind of those windows that they want to have these games ready for. I think that's going to be the real challenge. So I expect to see actually, or at least I would, again, what I would do as Phil is totally different than probably what he would do. But, I definitely would have a lot of smaller shows like the directs, like the state of plays throughout the year to make sure that each game gets its proper spotlight, and then save the big stuff like you were talking about, Zemi, for, E3 or whatever that's going to look like, a big summer showcase. But I definitely think that we are going to see more smaller announcement, or whatever they may be. I don't know what they're even going to call them anymore, but I would come up with a branding like State of Play or like Nintendo Direct to make sure that they can put these new titles in front of us and say, hey, this is what we've got going on, right? And I think they're going to have to find a way to do that. And it's going to be a challenge, like I said from the beginning, because they have so much that's going to be coming out. This year we don't know yet, even this year, what they've got planned, right? So we're going to have to wait and see. But I think going into 2022, 2023, when all these studios are pumping out some major content, we are going to have to make sure, as Xbox, to show off and make sure that everybody is aware of what's coming. So I think that's where they're going to go. So I definitely think organically it's going to happen. They're going to be playing kind of in their own field when it comes to this, because they're not going to have to worry what everybody else is showing off.
That first of all, that's a great point. And I think, as you can hear, my mic is better. For some reason, it defaulted to the microphone in the camera, which is ridiculous, but it did. But it's all been fixed. And I did have a massive video program running in the background, which should not be running when you're trying to do a podcast, which is why it was slowing down everything. So we are back to full force here. I was listening to everyone. Everyone has had some great points so far. So Pong, I want you to answer this question. Obviously, when you say the words inside Xbox, people cringe.
Yes,
and they cringe in a way that you really this. You know what I'm saying? Like, do they need a rebranding? Is the question.
Yeah, I totally believe they do. Like I was stating, I would definitely be working on that over time and trying to come up with something. Again, when all you got to do is look. Nintendo's pretty much giving you the roadmap, right? Since they decided to kind of shy away from E3 first, and they kind of went to this to their direct, right? When people get word that a direct is coming out, the world kind of stops.
Pretty
right?
much, yep.
And everybody's focused on it. And now that Microsoft has all of these studios that are making some really big titles that people are going to be looking forward to, and smaller titles that we don't even know that we want yet, but we're going to want them down the road.
Yep.
They need to rebrand and come up with something catchy, something that stops people when they hear, hey, Xbox is, coming out with, this on this date, that everybody's going to stop and want to watch it and make sure that they see what's coming down the road, right? And I think that's where they need to go. And I think Nintendo's kind of laid the groundwork for that, and PlayStation to an extent with State of Play. I mean, State of Play definitely drives the numbers. I mean, I was watching the live stream and it was like 500,000 people watching the State of Play. Yep. So absolutely. That's what they have to do for themselves. I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And, like I said, I like the point you made about how they're going to start having to do their own thing and not worry. That's Nintendo in a whole. Like, you can say whatever you want about 720 graphics on your screen, and that's fine. But like you said, and I think it's a great point, the world stops for a direct. Like, people actually say, oh, there's a Nintendo Direct today. I'm going to take lunch at this time so I can see what Nintendo is doing. And I think Microsoft listen, again, we're not doing it on this show. I think we're going to be talking more about it on Primetime Gaming. If you look at the lineup that Microsoft has put down, quietly, it's ridiculously impressive. And if they can have a steady flow of games coming out in the quality that we're going to be talking about on Monday's show, look out, world, because I think what you're onto something. If they can put out one new Xbox show, and I do think they should rebrand. I think that unfortunately the Inside Xbox name is a bit tarnished, and I would love to see them rebrand. I think rebranding is ultra important in this particular industry. I think it's important in any industry, but I think that if you come back in 2021 with a new way of presenting new games to potential new customers, you need to do something new. I keep using the word new, but I think that's what you have to do. Let's get Archimedes in on the opinion. Look, I mean, obviously we have 2 shows to go on, and what I love about Microsoft, whether this was on purpose or not, the sit on your hands approach. Now the field is in front of them. They don't have it's not an opinion based. What is Sony going to do? What is Nintendo? They did it already, and it wasn't great. I'm not saying it was horrible, because I'm happy with any new gaming news, but it wasn't what most people wanted. In your opinion, Boxer Bear, what does Microsoft? How should Microsoft respond in kind?
Okay, I answered that question with 2 different views. First is what I think they should do, and the second part will be what I think they will do. Pong was actually hitting the nail on the head. It is what Vijay has also been saying, basically in every show when this topic comes up. Microsoft needs to lay out their roadmap. They have too much content coming for not telling people about it. And when I look at the list, at the confirmed list of games that are coming this year, and see that we have not heard anything about those games, it makes me wonder, because most of those games will come out before the holiday season. We have Crossfire X coming. Yeah, we have The Ascent, the flight simulator. We know Psychonauts 2 is coming. We have Bright Memory Infinite. We have Warhammer Dark Tide, Second Extinction. All those games will come out. Scorn, I forgot Scorn, yeah, Exomecha, The Artful Escape. So many games are coming, and all of them will be coming before the fall season, where we get a Halo Infinite. Probably, we are assuming that we will get Starfield. We also assume we will get either Forza Motorsport or Forza Horizon, one of those games. So these are the big holiday titles, but all these other games, Crossfire X, The Ascent, Flight Simulator, Psychonauts, etc., they will come out before the fall. And Microsoft needs to start talking about that. They need to start laying out that roadmap. Then we have tomorrow, apparently the EU will officially sign off that deal with Bethesda. This is so much to talk about. How will the organization work? Will they be working as a splitted entity within in the Xbox division, or will they be united into one? Will the games be exclusive? What happens to the marketing department, and so on? All these open questions, so much to talk about. And the year is progressing faster and faster. Even if they announce it today, right after this show, then the event won't happen before the middle of March. And that's almost the first quarter of 2021 gone, without them telling us anything about what games we will play and when we will get to play them. And that's what I think they should do. They should come out with an rebranded Inside Xbox, a small event where they will just tell us, okay, listen, before this fall season, you will get to play Crossfire X. You will get to play this and this and this. And then they should do these kind of smaller events, like we had them from Sony last year. Sony also called them State of Play. But I remember State of Play about 4 weeks before The Last of Us 2 came out. And they gave us 15 minutes of commented gameplay. These kind of events are super important, especially in a time where you have to fully rely on online advertisement. They don't have the trade shows. E3 canceled. Yeah, Gamescom canceled. Yeah. Gamescom, we don't know whether it's canceled, but it won't be happening in a physical way. If it will happen again online. Yeah, E3 won't happen even online this year. So all they have is viral marketing through social media, through online websites, and so on. And you need to give those games a spotlight. Smaller events, 15, 20, 30-minute streams with gameplay, comments from the developers or the game director or whatever, and to really tell people about their game. Usually journalists get these hands-on events. Yep. Those are not happening this year. They need to start doing something. Sony is in a little bit a different spot here, because Sony has already shown a bunch of gameplay for Returnal, and they have a release date for that. They have shown gameplay for Ratchet & Clank, and they have a release date for that. So we know what is coming on the Sony level up until the fall season. But we don't know what Microsoft will be doing. We know that a ton of games should come by then. But this is really what they need to lay out and show us with gameplay. However, I said my second part, pardon me for taking up so much time here.
No, this is a conversational podcast, brother. Go crazy.
But this is what they should do. told you. I will tell you what I think they will actually do. I think they will stay quiet until May, at least. Then we will have, similar to last year, one little May event where the focus will be on a couple of AA titles, cranked into 30, 45 minutes, something like that. And then we won't hear anything before probably July or August, because June is off the table. E3 is not happening. I don't think that they will do one show in May, one show in June. They will have their other big event in July or even this time in August, and tell us what is coming in the holiday season. I don't think they should do that. I think they should explain their plan and their roadmap better to us. But unfortunately, we know that marketing department from Microsoft, and if Bethesda doesn't have a positive influence, I think that is what is going to happen.
I mean, listen, you never know. Real quick, where is it? Mike Lowry in the chat. First of all, love the name. If you're a big Bad Boys fan like I am, he says this, and this is interesting. ID at Xbox actually needs their own showcase similar to the Nintendo Direct. And I love that idea. Obviously, Nintendo has the Nindies. So I would love that. I would love for Microsoft to showcase, have a show dedicated to the indie scene, and ID at Xbox, that could be a 20-minute show. Pre-recorded, of course. You don't even have to have Phil Spencer come up there. You can do an announcer, a virtual announcer, like Sony does, and do a 20-minute, 25-minute show of all the ID at Xbox games coming in the next quarter or the next half of the year, and give them some spotlight, and then do your other big shows. I think that's a fantastic idea. Real quick, let me catch up on 3 of the super chats that came in. First of all, our good brother bringing us back to church once again, Smitty Smith, with the outstanding $5 super chat, and he says, "Salute to everyone. Please enjoy everyone who comes into your life. Salute the Lord. I, Dizzy 81, brother, you will be missed indeed." He certainly will. Chaos Might, very good friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "It's going to be easier for an Xbox presence in Japan as long as they don't censor games like Sony, and because Sony is pulling out of Japan." As a matter of fact, that is one of the major topics on tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom. And yes, folks, the return of the King. That's right, King David will be joining us tomorrow morning to talk about that and several other big topics. Hopefully you will tune in at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow morning. Start your Friday off right. And then from that show, we're going to be going right into the tribute to iDizzy on the ILP channel. I hope everyone can tune in to not just my show, but to stop by and show your support to Dizzy's Wonder Woman-esque wife, and support their very, very young son. Would be great to have a huge turnout for that. That goes live on ILP, the Iron Lords podcast, on YouTube at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right after Breakfast with Boom. And then the last one comes in, Dan the Man Cunningham, another generous friend of the show. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he says this: "My first day off, and I can't think of a better way to spend the afternoon than here with you fine peeps. Keep doing the Lord's work, Boom and Panel." Well, thanks so much for being here. I'm sorry that you're working your tail off, and I'm glad that you're hanging out with us. So thank you so much for that. 3-Bit, let's get your opinion on this. Listen, I usually save you and VJ last, and I do that specifically because both of you, you're in the business. VJ was in the business. Besides the development aspect, there's a marketing aspect that you are well-tuned, both of you are well-tuned to. For you, how does Microsoft respond on 2 ho-hum shows by their biggest competitors?
Well, I think with the next show coming up, they definitely do need to clarify what is in the pipeline for Xbox this year. Like Archimedes was saying, what is Xbox trying to achieve in 2021? A lot of people are starting to gravitate toward the Xbox brand this generation, and a lot of people don't know that there is a Xbox ID show, like some people are pointing out in the chat. And marketing is not exactly the strong suit, I would say, for Xbox in certain aspects. A lot of people don't know some of the features that Xbox has, like the FPS boost, which was pretty much announced through several blog posts out of the blue, right?
Right.
So basically, laying the groundwork on what's coming, going into depth with the ZeniMax deal is important before an E3 show, so things aren't overshadowed. It's definitely a landscape moment for the gaming industry, so it needs its time in the light. They need to make it clear to people that, hey, ZeniMax games are exclusive going forward. Indiana Jones exclusive. The Doom franchise exclusive, or not, right? So rebranding is definitely a thing they should do to some capacity, as you guys are saying. I think it's pretty important. They did kind of bite the bullet. The first show they did earlier last year with the very first reveal of Series X gameplay, and people have these sort of sore memories with Xbox last generation. You can hear it with the casual audience, the media, and also like Sony content creators, where they state like 9 years ago, Xbox hit my child and took my wife, so I moved over to the PlayStation, right? So I think this generation, Xbox has huge potential to show people what's coming up, and there's a ton of games coming to Xbox that are basically coming. We have Halo, which is going to be one of the biggest titles out there. You have Starfield, making it clear to people that, hey, these are Xbox products. You can experience it through our ecosystem, and continuing to reiterate the choices outline that Microsoft is giving to people, being able to play on console, PC, or mobile devices, continuing to reiterate that. It'll be a great thing. Game Pass is definitely a force to be reckoned with, right? And I think people are starting to notice certain features of Xbox. We had Jim Ryan saying it wasn't sustainable. Now they're looking into releasing more games onto PS Plus.
Yep.
Kotaku suddenly releasing articles on how Series X is becoming their preferred console, which Kotaku does not really do. from what I see,
there's actually quite a surprising article that, and it's funny. It's funny you say that, because I talked about this. I said you're going to see a change in the media once Microsoft pulls even potentially passes Sony when it comes to how the performance on games, and when they start coming out with banger after banger, you're going to see a big turn. But that's the industry for you as a whole.
Yeah, so I think while Xbox One became an imaging problem for Microsoft, Series X is definitely a good reboot in a lot of the sense, with these newer titles coming to the platform, and a ton of new features and technology. I do believe exclusives do definitely drive people to a console, but what keeps them there is the ecosystem. And there's a lot of stuff coming to Xbox with new features and technology. So it's definitely interesting there. Not only, so it's not just about the show for me. It's more so showing people continuously, like, hey, look at all the stuff that's on Xbox right now. The Game Pass, just keep reiterating how amazing Game Pass is. The quick resume feature, FPS boost, all this stuff that increases your experience that you will have with the Series X. All the ZeniMax games, are coming to the platform. And I think that's definitely going to help them in the long run. So,
and mind you, they haven't even started using the Velocity architecture to its full capabilities yet.
Yeah, people don't know that. So, kind of clarifying that. Oh, we know it,
right. Well, we're the hardcore, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically what I think they need to do for sure going forward.
No, well, I love the way you package that segment together. VJ, let's get your opinion on this. Now, listen, you have been to say hard on Microsoft when they make mistakes, like all of us, and it's well deserved at some points. But I'm interested to hear your thought process on this. One of the weak, or the weakest link, or the Achilles heel for Microsoft, and I don't think I'm saying anything disrespectful here. They know it, which is why they made the changes that they made, has been their marketing. And I think that they have been presented an early opportunity in 2021 to redefine what this year is going to look like for Xbox. Archimedes really nailed it when on paper, when you read what Microsoft has coming outside of their big AAAs, those single and double A, those single A and double A games that have coming out are incredible. And it's going to increase. I think what you're going to see happen, and we've seen this happen with Sony, is that the smaller games get lifted by the bigger ones, and it becomes a big party for Sony. Well, I think Microsoft has been given a position, an opportunity to do that. Not only, lift up the Ascent and Second Extinction and all these incredible games that we saw last May that we're going to be getting. Scorn is coming out as well. Another unbelievable scary horror game that Zemi won't be playing. And along with a ton of other really incredible games that are not releasing anywhere else. For you, what does Microsoft need to do to take advantage of this, VJ?
A lot's been said by the panel, so I'm kind of finding myself having to give a more of a pragmatic view. So I might talk extensively here, so I'll apologize in advance. So I think Xbox, as a division and as big as it is, definitely has an event schedule already prepped till the end of the year with obviously that proverbial room for maneuvering as and when the case may be, depending on how smoothly everything is proceeding internally and externally, because the pandemic hasn't gone away, right? It's still, the after effects, the aftershocks are still occurring. So let's bear that in mind. Overall, I'm pretty relaxed. And I guess my question is, does Xbox really need to show anything at this present moment in time? Is there an urgency to counter opposing forces? And I you said something at the beginning, Boom, in terms of your ratings for the show. And I think I'm in alignment with you, because for me, what that triggered was, did Sony and Nintendo show anything whatsoever to quake or vibrate the ground below Xbox and Game Pass? Did Sony or Nintendo show or mesmerize us with anything that would stagger Xbox first-party studios or what they have in their respective development pipelines? Did Sony or Nintendo, drape and cover themselves in any sort of undeniable avant-garde, arriving glory? Well, I don't think so. I think if you really want to look at it from a sensible assumption and reasons as to why Nintendo and Sony both delivered a sort of a Nintendo Direct and the Sony State of Play, I believe it is, respectively, it's because it's their year end, March 31st. And
right.
They do this, in my mind at least, Boom. They like to put on these customary sort of events, and as this is to Box and Bear or Box and Burgers or Archimedes. I don't know. He's got so many pseudo names now.
Making it complicated.
Big deal. Yeah, big deal. And he's right. They do, in my mind at least, like to put on these sort of customary sorts of events to conjure up as much possible business and, relatively speaking, register sort of every ounce of potential revenue they possibly can within we're on March 3rd or 4th in the next 27 days or so. Because for those companies, results proliferates confidence and determines ongoing support from shareholders and investors. So I can't really tell you what Xbox must, could, or should do. It's quite unpredictable. The reason is, Boom, is because Xbox are not tapered, hemmed in, or hampered by their competitors' constraints, right? As Pong Sol said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it, Xbox are kind of like writing their own hymn sheet at the moment because they find themselves in such a strong position given what they've managed to achieve over the last 2.5 or 3 years. Time flies so quickly when you're at my age. Sorry, Boom. You can point to the fact well, Microsoft produced an event for our consumption last March, and since E3 never happened, they also produced a subsequent Xbox event, and I believe it was in July of last year, just after their 30th of June financial year end, right? So if I'm really looking at it carefully, we just don't know enough about what's going on behind the scenes and what strategic pieces Phil's team have to play with and that are ready to show and sell us on, ideally in the short term to medium term at least. And when I say that, I mean in the next 12 months. Everything Xbox plans to do next should be multifaceted information and a reveal-led approach sort of thing. So, and what that does is maintains the good start and they've had and continues to create demand for Xbox systems and Game Pass specifically, with the former being more freely available this June, because we know that hardware is still not freely available. And so back to my first question: does Xbox really need to do? Well, your question, I guess. Sorry, but does Xbox really need to do anything other than get their ducks in a row first and foremost? From an inward-looking perspective and from Big B's Boxenberger's perspective, yes, I would like a clear, transparent roadmap for at least this year, and continuous blog posts littered and coloured with sort of amazing screens and video trailer updates from its studios and the specific game in progress. If and when, obviously, it's feasible. I'm not forcing them to do it, but I think that is working wonders. And I think so also, given what they showcased with Halo just a few days ago. But talking of Halo, I think a lot of what Xbox is planning pivots around the progress, quality, and eventual reveal and release date of Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Halo is seemingly the most, for many, right? So it's subjective. I get that. Is seemingly the most sort of like pivotal title for Xbox this year in order to remain on a competitive trajectory with Sony and Nintendo. And I'm not just speaking about growth or sales and so on and so forth. There's much more to it, but it's difficult to talk about in the confines of a podcast. So currently, right now, I agree, there is a general scarcity or shortage of game announcements. However, you would think, on the other hand, in order to sort of drive Game Pass subs via PC and handheld devices, Xbox would look to announce considerably more on a consistent basis.
Yep.
But the whole short, medium, and long-term picture is very unclear at the moment. Boom. To Pong Soul's point, I will close by saying that given the sheer number of studios and content in development, plus external partnerships as well, let's not forget that, over at Xbox, if it's all being managed correctly, then the quality coupled with the volume of content will be an eye-opener for sure once it's all revealed. Perhaps, for me, a storm of, such magnitude is brewing, and perhaps that's exactly what is needed. And what I mean by that, in order to cause a revolution or a paradigm shift, something everyone associated within the games industry has not seen or sort of experienced before, I think is what Phil is potentially planning. I think that Phil is perhaps working towards leaving his mark on the game industry in such an emphatic way that will be long remembered, and in turn serves Xbox in the meantime. Whatever the case may be, my hope is that Phil and his team sort of dissipate the fog in front of us quite soon, since we all love to bathe, sort of in future promise.
Well, I love everything that you said. And for me personally, looking at what Archimedes said, I think that it would behoove Microsoft to turn around and do a show in April. Do however they're going to explain the Bethesda situation, whether that's an actual sit-down interview, whether Bethesda puts out a video and then we all watch it and talk about it, or they do an Xbox Wire article where Zemi's Lord and Savior Todd Howard writes up a hit piece to talk about what is actually going to happen. I would love to see them highlight the 10 games that and it could have been more that Archimedes listed that's not any of the big AAA bombs, right? Obviously, I think we're going to see Halo Infinite running full running on a Series X during E3. What I would love to see them do, and I don't know if they're going to do this, I would love to see them take side-by-side gameplay of what we saw in July against what they've been doing and show the difference. That I think that would be monster. It would shut everyone down on what 343 can bring to the table, which I have some Halo 5 footage I'm going to bring up in a minute, which is just gorgeous. Again, I'm not a fan of the story at all, but you cannot deny how incredible that game looks. And I have a feeling that Halo is going to deliver in every way possible, but I still want to see some gameplay from Scorn. I still want to see when the Ascent is coming on, and Second Extinction, and Crossfire X. There's so many games coming out this year for Xbox that you can only play on PC, xCloud, or actual Xbox, and that's a big deal. They need to highlight that. They need to say, hey, listen, folks, every one of these games in Game Pass day one, and show them running in full HD glory. You know, you take a 35-minute, 40-minute segment with not a lot of chatter. Listen, trailer after trailer after trailer, actual gameplay, gameplay footage. You get one after another, and you tell people that yes, you want, if you want these games. We understand that the times are tough for people. $15 a month gets you every one of these day one. And they drive two things home. They drive the Xbox Game Pass rhetoric, and they also tell everyone why they should invest in Xbox. And I think that is how they need to respond. I am not saying, again, a show like that, it takes some time to put together. That's why I'm saying April, not March. Get the ink dried on the Bethesda deal, and then let's have Microsoft really drop it on the desk and show what they got between their legs. That's what I want to see. But I want to move on to the next big topic, and this one we touched a bit on primetime gaming. And if you missed that episode, folks, 2+ hours of probably my favorite show of the year. It was just the regular primetime guys, no guests, and we went to town. And we had a bunch of Laugh Riot commentary, and it was great. If you missed that show, it's on the channel. Definitely download it. It's available on any of your favorite podcast services. And you know what? I don't actually say that enough. Every show that I do that's on YouTube, if it's burning out your battery on your phone and you don't want to watch live and you just want to catch the audio, we're available everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, every podcast service you could possibly imagine. Double Barrel Gaming is there. I upload it directly after this show goes live, and it's there for you every episode. So definitely get over. I'll drop the link after the show goes live, so you can just subscribe. And do me a favor, hit the 5-star button on there if you're enjoying the podcast. It would be greatly appreciated. But let's get into topic number 2 now. Listen. This is a story that I pulled from the pages of lordsofgaming.net. Now, writer Logan Meyer was supposed to be here today. I had advertised that early in the week, and unfortunately, something came up with his schedule where he could not join us. So he's going to be joining us next Thursday on the Xbox Factor podcast. But his article was titled Second Class Status, Xbox Must Improve in Japan. And we're going to be talking about how Phil Spencer aims to do just that. Now, before we get into Logan's actual article, I want to bring Phil Spencer into the conversation regarding his recent comments on the Japanese marketplace. And speaking in an interview from almost a year ago with Gamertag Radio, Xbox boss Phil Spencer had a lot to say on how the Xbox platform was going to handle itself in Japan this generation, as opposed to many failures before them. And here are some of Phil's quotes. He says this: "Our market in Japan for Xbox is important to us. Obviously, Sony and Nintendo are both strong Japanese companies who have done a great job. I don't know if we're winning in Japan anytime soon, but the position that we have in Japan today from a platform isn't acceptable to me." He added this: "We're going to do a much better job with this next upcoming launch and not wait 10 months to launch in Japan like we did the last time. We're going to make sure that our services like Game Pass and xCloud and stuff are there so people will have access to it. I think what you're asking about is, could we have more homegrown first-party content that's developed in Japan? And I'll say, I think we can. I'm not announcing anything, but I think the Japanese market is specifically important because of the creative community there and because the gamer community that they have. I want Xbox to mean more there than it does today, and that means working across a bunch of different fronts to make that possible. And unfortunately, it takes time." Now, the reason for both of this thumbnail and topic on today's show is because of what happened for the new episode of What's on Phil's Shelf, which is very similar to Where's Waldo. Now, during the Microsoft Xbox AI Summit, we talked about this on numerous times, and everyone has been talking about this, as a matter of fact. Phil specifically was doing an interview in his new office space that had a ton of Easter eggs. And behind him, though, The one that has gotten the most press, the most theories, and the most conversation pieces was Kojima Productions Luden's statue directly next to the large Xbox logo. Now, as of this show, Kojima Productions remains independent, but if Microsoft is meant to be taken serious in the land of the rising sun, a marketplace that has millions of mobile gamers, they're going to need a big name to headline the potential of getting those platform ideologies to turn around. Now, Zemi, I want to go to you first on this.
Yep.
Listen, Kojima, whether you like him, whether you hate him, or whether it's just not your cup of tea, I hear you. But you have to admit, if they were to make headway in a region they notoriously have failed, and they want to, build roots, I don't think a Kojima Productions would be a bad start. Now, granted, Phil, during the XCast, Paris Lilly had made mention of this, and I talked about this on Prime Time. His thought and theory was that Microsoft gets Kojima Productions, and then they go out and they buy to acquire the Konami IP known as Metal Gear Solid and give it to him to make a first-party Metal Gear Solid. Now, when I heard that, not only did I almost literally crash my truck because I love the idea, I think it would be a bold move, Cotton, right? So what are your thoughts on Kojima Productions joining Xbox Game Studios? Would that be a big move for them to really put it down in Japan?
Yeah, I mean, it for sure would be. And just to start off by talking about Japan, I mean, Japan is a huge marketplace, and it's, obviously historically a marketplace Xbox has not done very well in, especially last gen. And just to show how significant of a marketplace that is, it is the third largest country per revenue in the gaming industry, right? The US and China are both above it. So it is a huge market for video games. And but back onto the whole Kojima idea. Yes, I mean 100% it makes sense, and he had the statue next to the Xbox logo in the last show that he did that I saw, and that kind of is a wink and a nod from previous moments that it very well could happen. Does that mean that they're going to acquire Kojima Productions? I don't really know. But if nothing else, I think it would be a very strong indication that Xbox is working to partner with Kojima Productions in some manner, at the very least, unless Phil is just out to troll everyone now, just for his.
I don't think he would do
laughs.
that, dude. That's really trolling, man.
It is. How sad would that be, right? But even regarding Kojima Productions, yes, that would be a huge get for Xbox, absolutely, right? But there's also a lot of other things that they could do that would also be a very, very big get for Xbox. And, we've seen them do a lot with that region. Of course, they released the console the same, on launch. They didn't hold back 10 months. They released it on launch for, the Xbox Series consoles and stuff. And of course, their xCloud technologies on mobile device is really helping out in that region as well. But the main thing that they are missing out, even still on today, is software, right? Having the correct type of games to really market to those Japanese, to that Japanese audience, right? That's what they're really missing out on. And I think they are 100% working on that because, Yakuza is now on Xbox. Phantasy Star Online 2, came to Xbox. A lot of these, older, Japanese kind of games that for a very long time were just kind of excluded from the Xbox brand are finally coming to it. But in addition to that, I think it's pretty much safe to say that Xbox is definitely looking to either acquire a Japanese publisher or, some studios, or work out deals, first party deals with these, individual studios just to make games for them. And I think really the main thing that's holding us up is they just want to do it right. You can do something right, or you can do something quick, but you can rarely do them both at the same time, right? And Xbox definitely doesn't want to mess up on this, right? It is a huge market, and it's a market that they've been excluded from for quite some time. They want to get in there. They want to become more competitive. They want to raise up their market share, and they want to do it correctly. So, the sustainability of Game Pass and the Xbox brand is stronger, right? I think it's just going to be one of those moments where we're just going to have to wait for Xbox to figure out what they are doing, or if they've already figured it out. Wait until they finally announce it to us. Kojima would be a great get. I don't know if it means acquisition. Whenever we think of Xbox, we automatically like to think of acquisitions because that's really exciting for the brand and just for us gamers all together. But it could just be a partnership. But Xbox still could acquire potentially a lot of other studios, or even a game publisher in that region.
I agree, and I think that listen, the one of the creators, the original creator of Ninja Gaiden, just recently dropped onto social media, both on Facebook, on Twitter, that he has always been an Xbox guy, and that he would love to be acquired. And I think that he still holds a name along with the talent, and I just think I would love to see some big name talent come over to work with Xbox, specifically in that region. Again, there are, maybe the Japanese type games are JRPGs aren't your thing. Maybe their culture and the way that they do comedy isn't on your plate. And I hear you, but it's on my plate. And I've always been a big fan of that region of the world. I used to be a huge importer before everything just came out at the same time, and would love to see Microsoft make some big strides. Now, granted, I think they're going to do great things. I think xCloud is literally the perfect shoehorn into gaining ground. And again, Sony, regardless of what they're saying, is pulling away from the Japanese market. I think this is an opportunity for Microsoft to slide right in there. Pong So, I want to get your opinion on this. First of all, as we close in on 450 people here, that is pretty dope. I want to catch up on two of the super chats. First of all, Hot Grizz 910 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, all Microsoft has to do is show one killer game with gameplay and developer commentary, and that would be enough. Game of the year caliber type game. Yeah, I 100% agree. And Will Sims shows his generosity with an outstanding, very generous $10 super chat and says, do you think the content in Game Pass should be marketed... Hold on a sec. I had a message pop up over here. Should be marketed better to NBA 2K21 and Star Wars Squadrons are available. Should be advertised in commercials, not just what Game Pass is, but what is available currently to date. Yeah, I agree. I think they definitely need to do better on not just talking about Game Pass as a service, but when you have a big game like NBA 2K21 and Star Wars Squadrons, those commercials should be flashing. They definitely need to spend a couple of bucks more. Maybe I'm not going to say that Double Barrel Gaming is going to help them because they don't need my money, but they certainly should spend a little bit more money advertising what new content is currently in there, especially when you have two big games like that. And when you talk about NBA 2K21, I mean, come on, it's the best basketball out there, and it's in Game Pass, along with Madden and Football Manager is in there as well. I mean, they have really done some big time games in there, so they definitely need to advertise for sure. But Pong So, let's get your opinion on this. Where do you think Microsoft needs to start first? Because, obviously their first step in Japan was getting xCloud and Xbox Game Pass in that region, that and Korea. And they did that last year. And quite frankly, it's doing well. I think surprisingly well in both regions that, again, they've notoriously have failed in the past. Where do they need to go? Where do they step on the gas? And would Kojima Productions be the start of that?
Yeah, this is going to be an uphill battle, and we've heard these words before, going all the way back to the 360 days of how badly Xbox, Phil, the whole team has wanted to get into this market. And I think it starts obviously it's credibility first. And I think with, as you alluded to, Sony seemingly pulling kind of away from the Japanese market, I think it's cracked the door a little bit here. And I think we've seen some positive, signs, that maybe they have actually started to, grab some of the mind share over there a little bit. Again, uphill battle here for Microsoft and Xbox in general, just from the standpoint of them being an American, company, and the thoughts and feelings of the Japanese market that go into that. But I don't think it's an unwinnable battle in any way, shape, or form. I think they can definitely make strides. I'm certainly not going to sit here and try to tell everybody they're going to overtake Nintendo and Sony, in that market in any way, shape, or form. However, they can definitely get a foothold, and I think that's going to start with credibility. And you can buy credibility by going out and doing deals. Not necessarily, you don't even have to make acquisitions, although I'd certainly like to see them do that. And I think Phil has had that on his target list for a long time with maybe a Sega or a Capcom or something of that stature over there. As far as Kojima goes, again, buying Kojima Studios, I'm more in line with Zemi. I think it's a small chance that would ever happen. But again, money talks and BS walks, right? So, and we know Kojima himself loves to get the money bag because his projects are huge. and they do cost a lot. His creative freedom has a price tag, and it's quite large. And if Microsoft wanted to invest in that, I could see it, happening. I'd more like to think of a dream scenario of where they go to Konami and get the Metal Gear IP, since Konami obviously doesn't have much interest anymore in doing stuff with gaming, and then allowing going ahead and getting that IP and then throwing it out there in the water in front of Kojima and say, hey, we've got this. Why don't you come back and take over your baby? And why don't you do whatever you want to with it and make a crazy deal like that, and see what he comes up with and make it Xbox exclusive? That would go a long way over in that market. I, like you, Boom, I am a big fan of the wacky, crazy, all the cool stuff that comes out of the Japanese side of gaming. I think it's important to Phil as well that he continues to create that diversity within the Xbox ecosystem. And like, I think Zemi alluded to it as well. You've got to have that type of content to bring those people in to the Xbox ecosystem itself, whether it's through xCloud and Game Pass, or whether it's through, consoles or whatever the case may be. And obviously the mobile market being huge over there. I think you got to have that diversity of content. So it's ultra important that they do establish themselves and plant their flag over there and say, hey, we're here. And again, through acquisitions, through third-party deals, whatever it takes, I think they need to do that. And this is going to be a big juggling act, obviously, with Phil's plans and Microsoft's plans to try to, get into the 3 billion people that are supposedly currently playing games through different various ways. They're going to have to juggle this because they've got to look at, and they can't lose sight of emerging markets over there in South Korea and even China. We've seen some incredible talent. We've seen glimpses now, through like Black Myth Wukong.
Dude. Yeah.
Bright Memory Infinite in China. These smaller developers that are now coming out of the woodwork. And showing that there is huge amounts of talent that is brewing over there. Not to mention like, Pearl Abyss, the South Korean developer with Crimson Desert. We just saw that trailer last year and it blew people away when we saw it. So I think they're going to need to juggle all these emerging markets on top of keeping the focus on Japan and try to find ways in to cut deals, to throw money around. And obviously, Xbox has got the money now. I mean, Satya is on board with everything Phil's saying. So if they're truly in this and they're not dipping their toes in this like they have been for years, if they're truly in this, they're going to have to make those big splashes like the ZeniMax deal over here to establish themselves within that marketplace and make sure that people cannot, ignore Xbox anymore. They can't say, oh, it's just that American, game company trying to come over here. They're going to have to really say, no, we are here and we're here to stay and we want you guys. That's what they got to do. They got to draw these people in saying, no, we want you to come in and enjoy our ecosystem. We want to show you that we are truly invested in this market itself, and we are committed to being here for a very long time, and we want you with us, and that's where they've got to go.
I agree. I agree. I think they have to really, they talked about, Phil has always talked about roots. And I think when you talk about trying to grow your brand, you have to put down some big roots. Now, we do know, thanks to the Bethesda deal, they actually do now own a Japanese company, which is responsible for some really incredible games. And I would like to see that further. I don't know if financially Kojima Productions is worth buying. Maybe second party. Maybe they just contract him for the one game. Could that game be something like a Metal Gear? You go out, you get the IP, and then you say, Kojima, do you want to make this game? Of course, he'd want to. He'd want to do it for two reasons. One, that's his baby, and two, it's the big FU to Konami. So right. it would be a double-edged sword for him personally, and even if it took 4 or 5 years to get here, if you could turn around and tell the people, hey, Kojima Productions is currently working on a new Metal Gear exclusive. Do you know what that does? Yep. Just the press alone?
Yeah, the talk alone. Again, like him or not. Again, we can have debates on Kojima himself as far as what he creates and whether or not it has mass appeal. It creates mass talking points, and everybody would be talking about it from the start to the finish.
Yes.
Even if it took 4 to 5 years, it would always be in the back of people's minds, and always people whispering about it and talking about it and saying, hey, wonder when we're going to see Kojima's game. Wonder when we're going to see what he's got going on with Xbox. And it would lead up to the launch no matter what. So like him or hate him, he's still a big draw. He's a rock star developer, and there's very few rock star developers like that. Itagachi was one of those at one point, like you pointed out, and obviously doing a deal with him as well, since he wants to do a deal with Microsoft. Even though he's been out of the game for a little bit, not necessarily in the spotlight, go out and get Koei Tecmo to buy Koei Tecmo and bring back Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden to him and let him rock and roll again. And you never know what's going to come out of it. So yeah, definitely a big point.
I absolutely agree. Really, before I get to Archimedes, the Lord of Storm drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat and says, "Are there any plans for any future Halo games based around the Oni espionage missions?" I tell you right now, I certainly hope so. Again, my take on Locke and that crew. Great group of people we didn't really get a chance to learn about. Again, the marketing kind of threw it off for me personally. But again, if you're going to give me side stories, I'm all in. You want to give me Oni over Blue Team? The answer is you can keep it walking. I'm not ready to buy. But again, Halo Infinite is going to be about Master Chief. It's going to be all about Master Chief, and we're going to get some side stories in there. And I hope that Oni is one of them. I'd like to see what happens to Locke. Does Locke perish? Is he on another mission with Oni? I don't know, but it would be interesting. Hopefully they don't abandon it, and they do better when it comes to what we're actually going to get. But Archimedes, let's get your point. Let's get your opinion on this. Listen, Japan is a market that cannot be denied. It's a very heavy mobile market. It just so happens that Microsoft's new invention and and something that they're looking to push big time over there happens to do with mobile gaming, and that is with Project xCloud. So they already have a foot in the door. We already know that it's doing surprisingly well. We already know that Xbox Game Pass is appealing to many of those gamers for value, for the fact that they can take these games on the go. but I think they're still missing the killer element. And that killer element is a big time Japanese developer / studio that they can really put out there and say, yes, we just signed X person. And I think Kojima Productions, again, whether you love him, hate him, or otherwise, is up for the challenge. And again, based on what Paris Lilly said, it's just his opinion, and I'm going to second that opinion. It would be pretty incredible for Microsoft to turn around and get Kojima, and then to go out and get that Konami IP that they're sitting on, that they have been shopping around, and put those two. That's like getting the best peanut butter and chocolate you can put together. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, where do I start? I have so many thoughts on this. I want to start by saying you are right in one perspective. If Microsoft wants to get bigger in the Japanese market, they need that Japanese IP. I don't think the Kojima IPs are that, because the Kojima games are very Western games. Metal Gear Solid and even the FedEx Simulator is a relatively Western game. To really lure the Japanese market in, you need those crazy anime type of Japanese kind of games. This is what the typical Japanese game is. The Kojima games, they are way too Western to really have that effect. I agree that, of course, having an exclusive Kojima game would draw a lot of potential customers into the Xbox ecosystem. It would be huge, but I'm not sure whether that will be the Japanese market, or if this allures more to the Western market. Now, I'm no fan of Kojima. I don't like his games. I dare say it here, and even if it costs me a couple of followers, he has never made a good game. A lot of people always said, oh, this is Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 masterpieces in storytelling, but nobody was able to explain the story to me. That's not a masterpiece in storytelling. The gameplay was actually bad. It was clunky. It didn't feel good. I don't know. I really don't understand why people like these games, but he has a heavy name to it. So, yeah, I think Microsoft could do something better, but I know a lot of people like the Kojima games, and it would be a big deal. What I think Microsoft should do to really get into the Japanese market is actually not to focus too much on Japan, because the Japanese market is a kind of a weird market at the moment. As you said, they develop a lot into the mobile section. That is also why you can see Sony pull out of the Japanese market. They are not as invested anymore in the Japanese market, because the console business in Japan is, I'm not saying it's dead, but it is not as big anymore, not as important anymore. It's more the mobile aspect, and there you have a lot of competition. Microsoft has now the potential, of course, with xCloud to really go into that market. But then again, the Japanese market isn't the biggest market, and Microsoft really wants to expand their customer base. And for that to happen, they have to look into other markets, like the Chinese market, like Pong said, with Black Myth. We have a couple of studios now actually coming from China. And China is a huge market. They have to look into, how do we get our foot into China, not into Japan. They need to look also, how do we get our foot into South Korea? Because the gaming community,
it's big there.
It's big in South Korea. Way bigger than it is in Japan right now, and it is much closer to what Microsoft represents. I've lived for a couple of months in South Korea. South Korea is really a super Western Asian country. When you go to Japan, you can immediately tell you are in an Asian country. Same goes for China. When you go to South Korea is super Western. And so since Microsoft has a Western focus portfolio at the moment, it is way easier for them to expand in that market and make the jump from there to China. This is what they probably should focus on if they want to grow their customer base. I don't know whether that's the classic Japanese game. So yeah, coming back to your original point, do they need a Kojima game to get the foothold in Japan? I don't think so. It would be a big deal for them, but there are other games that are missing in the portfolio than the Kojima game. If you want to allure these Japanese customers, it's these, like I said, these crazy anime kind of games, and probably a deal with a Konami or something would behoove them more to get a foothold in Japan than an actual Kojima game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at this point, their next move, people are going to be looking. And I again, maybe Kojima is not everyone's cup of tea. I do like the idea of, if you don't want to buy the studio, okay, I hear you. I absolutely hear you there. But I definitely think it behooves Microsoft to get them to work together on an exclusive game that is only going to be released on the Xbox. That has to be. Maybe they don't own the IP, or maybe they do own the IP. I don't know. And I know that there might be a little gun shy after what happened with the Dragon game that never came out by Platinum. But I think that they are in much better standing, both internally and reputation wise. But again, Japan is a very fickle market. I think they're doing the right thing. I just think they need a big name to go along. Obviously advertising that you signed the Kojima for an exclusive is going to be a much bigger deal than people give it credit for. I will definitely say that. But let's get 3-bit. Let's get your opinion on this, brother. What are your thoughts on, Kojima as a creator? I know that a lot of people say he's overrated, and again, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but he's still a draw. I'm sorry, I just think that he still has the chops to deliver. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts on Japan and Microsoft and Kojima. Let's see. I think Microsoft is definitely already making strides towards their success in Japan. For one, having a previous series that was only on PlayStation, the Yakuza series, all coming to Game Pass, not just coming to Xbox, but coming to a service that some people are experiencing for only $1, mind you. So it's a pretty good start for not only fans, but it's a good step toward their production on Japanese titles. Microsoft making deals with Sega is definitely a good start toward that relationship. Now, and then, of course, you have Sony, who's gearing more towards the European markets currently. And I do believe they hired Jim Ryan to begin that shift, basically the shift of that change. This is definitely a good opportunity for Microsoft to begin to sweep that market. And, months ago, they did have that show exclusively for Japanese audiences. You guys remember where they promoted Minecraft, I believe it was.
Yeah, that was a weird show.
That was a pretty weird show. But and then I think Crossfire X was also mentioned, or maybe it wasn't. I can't remember. But
yeah, but pardon me for interrupting, but Crossfire X is a perfect example for what I just said. It is a game from South Korea. It is a Western game. It is not a Japanese game, because the South Korean market is way closer to the US market than it is to any other Asian market.
Yeah, that game is definitely big overseas. And just by their ecosystem alone, right? Having their game be playable on mobile devices is huge. PUBG Mobile alone made $2.6 billion last year in the US and China alone, just to show that the power of their ecosystem, right? So xCloud is a great opportunity. They do need to solve the issue with iPhones not having Game Pass. As the iPhone SE 2020 is the most popular phone in Japan, I think, last time I checked, because I'm making a video on it. But their potential to grow is pretty insane. Now, Kojima Productions would be I think a great grab for Microsoft. Apparently, the rumors of him teaming up with Stadia were false. I was like, what? That was a little weird. But I think Kojima is just a visionary. my dream fanboy moment, I would say, like, they should just buy the rights of from Konami for Silent Hill and Metal Gear, and then bring that to Kojima. Like, here you go. But as Pong was saying, the price for Kojima is pretty big. They're definitely going to have to commit within that marketplace. I don't think Kojima being Western, as Archimedes was saying, should affect an acquisition in any case. I think Kojima games definitely have their zany craziness as similar to some other Japanese games. Japanese culture is interesting for sure, as you were saying, because they definitely are inspired by Western culture, right? It's very much embedded in a lot of their media, especially if you watch anime, just watch Japanese TV shows and see how they portray America. It's pretty interesting. But as you guys were saying, the name alone is enough to make some huge headlines, whether you like Kojima or not. I think as of this podcast, Microsoft hasn't currently acquired any Japanese studios. So most of their grabs have been private studios, which are a lot easier to acquire. You did have their recent get of Tango Gameworks, which kind of fell on their lap as a part of the overall acquisition of ZeniMax for sure. But it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was their primary intention, but an added bonus for sure. So now I feel like they definitely need some solid studios under their belt, like an Atlas. I personally would just go ahead and acquire the developers of Black Myth Wukong. The developer name is I think their name is Game Science Interactive, I believe.
Yes.
They are they're a Chinese indie studio, and they haven't proven themselves yet. But goodness, that game looks very impressive. So I would just get them. That's my dream get. But they have
those are the kind of small studios that that would again make headlines. You know, you pick up a small studio like that, and based on just the work that they've already shown, I'm sorry, they got talent in every pore.
Yeah. Then those small studios, they add up, right? And
yeah,
that's something Sony is pretty good at. So they have some of the right pieces. They have Phil, they have xCloud's technology, Game Pass, games like Crossfire X, and they're making strides. They have ZeniMax now. So if they're serious, make some deals with those Japanese-based developers. I know I had a lot of different topics within that, within like Sony gearing more towards the European market, Kojima, and all that. But I think it's all sort of connected, and into diving into the Japanese market and really increasing the brand that is Xbox. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
And great opinions. Let's get of course VJ. As someone that has seen both sides of the coin in the industry that we all know and love, that we come here every week to talk about, namescapes are super important. Of course, you know, you want to see a product go along with that name, and some people will disagree with me, and some people have been disagreeing with me in the chat, saying that Kojima's overrated. Kojima doesn't hold the same power he used to hold. Well, again, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's great. But I still think that there is something there, and I just think that if they lined up what I was thinking, and going out and getting a Silent Hill, going out and getting a Metal Gear Solid that is unbelievably big IPs that Konami's looking to get rid of, or at least shop around, and then you get a Kojima to make that game, that is headline news. And in a place like Japan, it would be relevant for quite some time. What are your thoughts on this?
Boom, it seems like everybody's stepped up their game this week. It's like there's so many points flying around, I'm difficult to keep up, but I'll do my best. So I think Phil is showcasing a commendable attitude towards Japan, and I would include Asia in that, right, by extension. And I understand that they of the initiatives in South Korea, right, before announcing and launching Game Pass via devices and xCloud, etc. in Japan within the first half of this year, I believe. So this is a little bit of a difficult one for me. I would say Kojima is not a straightforward sort of decent person to converse and deal with, not an easy one to say the least. However, I can see how it would perhaps, form from a Western perspective seemingly be a feather in Phil's cap, as a lot of people are saying, but I'm in sort of total alignment with Archimedes. For me, Kojima's he's past his best. In his prime, he was for sure, creatively and groundbreakingly ahead in relation to many of his creative peers. But now, however, there are so many exceptional creators in Japan, Asia, and the West, and a lot of his heirs, or those in the line of succession to Kojima's throne, should I say, have sort of either migrated away into other entertainment industries within Japan, or simply don't want to step into the gaming industry. So people say Kojima has a huge fan base. Well, for me, it wasn't large enough to sell enough units of Death Stranding for Sony to break even. And of course, Phil would have noted this and equated Fortnite in any sort of formula that he's putting together, in terms of how he wants to move forward in Japan. So to be successful in Japan, Phil would look to Steve Jobs as how and why he was first and foremost adopted in Japan, and by extension, Apple and its products. So for me personally, Kojima would only go so far in turning Xbox's perceptions in Japan. But you're right, Boom, every degree counts, right? So Kojima to one side, we need to perhaps understand why I feel the timing is not perfect for Phil, and why has the console gaming industry seen such a decline in Japan. Of course, I'm aware that Game Pass on every mobile and TV device is the principal objective, for Xbox in Asia. But I don't see Kojima's sort of next extravagant artistic piece, whatever that's going to be, being played on a mobile device. And given the rise in production costs of games that someone mentioned, it is important to note. It's a huge bet. And obviously, when people look, it's only 150 million, it's just Microsoft, that's like pocket change for them. Okay, that's fine. That's your perspective on it. That's absolutely fine. It's also because you have to understand the social and economic, horizontal and vertical landscapes have changed dramatically, not just over the last 2 decades, but over a much longer period. If you're not aware, Japan's aging population is a serious issue that no modern society, government, or country has ever had to overcome. Japan's, I think, median age is around 49 or 50, with 30% of its population over 65 compared to 20 years ago. Compared to that, to the US's median age of 38, and only 16% of its population, I think, something like that, over the age of 65. Last year, the birth rate of newborn babies in Japan was less than 900,000 in a ratio to, I think it's 126 million, their population. And you compare that to the US's 4 million, right, compared to, in ratio, sorry, to the population of 326 million. And it's the first time that's happened in Japan since the late 1800s, when I think 900,000 newborn babies, right, in relation to 38 million population at the time. I think the Japanese corporations of today cannot sustain themselves by focusing their goods and services for Japan only, especially in a declining Japanese economy, and definitely evolved consumption patterns and fashions. And this is from my time being there, right? So everyone in Japan is now working harder for longer with uncertainty at the end of it. So for me, definitely no more late yakitori or for bibimbap in Archimedes' case, yeah, or drinking, beer. But it's well, but I would also say this: it's well documented. Sony were also very much circling the pit of despair in and around 2010. So still, it's really, for me, it's really important to know, as nobody in the media will, no podcast really does, right? Because they're too busy castigating Sony in recent times, that Sony sold more PS4s than the Xbox 360 and PS3 combined. Not bad in a declining market. And then I had somebody throw Nintendo Switch's dominance in Japan at me. Well, I would say, well, then go and look and check your facts, because the Nintendo Switch hasn't exactly surpassed the Nintendo Wii sales of 2008 by an astonishing margin. Software tie ratios is a completely different metric altogether. Also, let me point out that Sony is not pulling out of Japan. Sony has one of 3 or 4 mobile games that generates billions of dollars via mobile. I think it's called Grand Order or something, and it's under the Sony Music division, not PlayStation. Sony and other major Japanese corporations have moved their focus of their business, as Boxenberger has said, based on where the audience is more abundant and affluent at this current moment in time. Currently, that focus is in the West, until China, which I know someone's just brought up, is more relenting in its gaming policies towards hardware manufacturers and Western software being released in its territory. Hence, heavy. And I'm talking about China here, there's heavy provincial, local government incentives and funds that are on offer to many regions of China to help create its own creative legacy and slew of powerhouse developers. Phil has his designs on Asia. However, to put it politely, the Japanese and Asia Pacific Xbox team and infrastructure do need freshening up. And I've talked about this before. And to somebody, I do apologize. I think it might have been 3-bit. There are, and I think it might be Newboom. There are many developers Xbox should be looking at right across the this established but also vastly untapped and emerging sort of Asia region. With what I've said, many may seem to then conclude what Vijay is saying, maybe Japan's gaming companies are there for the taking, easy picking, so to speak, for Phil and his team. It's just a matter of time. But I would have to say, on the contrary, I would actually, contradictorily speaking, I would have hard and fast points against why this is never going to be the case. And if I've learned one thing, given my time in Japan, the Japanese are so much more about what they want to keep and preserve and not what they want to get rid of or sell for profit. That's all for me.
I mean, listen, you always bring your A game, and once again, dropping some major facts. Listen, folks, here's the thing. This is a conversational podcast. I'm not going to shout out this knucklehead, but he comes in here and he makes a comment. Too much. It's too deep for this podcast. Well, maybe this podcast isn't for you, brother. And again, no, we don't do name shaming here. The chat knows who I'm talking about. Listen, if you don't want to be here, I'm not twisting your dick, so you don't got to come and hang out. And if this is too deep for you, then maybe you need to up your game in your personal vocabulary, because this was some incredible opinions by a bunch of incredible people that are doing this for your entertainment. So don't be disrespectful, dude. All right, we won't tolerate that. So if I throw another flag, you're getting bounced, and I mean for permanent, because I don't stand for that kind of behavior. These fine folks, these gentlemen here, come here every week. And they pour their heart and soul into a podcast that I can't afford to pay them, because if I did, they'd be getting top dollar. So don't be an a-hole. But let me continue with the show. Now, first of all, this was a great topic, and again, regardless of what Microsoft decides to do, we're not going to know. Obviously, Phil's going to make that determination, and then we are going to cheer it or boo it. But I do want to move on to the next topic. And Zemi, I think you've been waiting for this particular one. We'll be talking some Halo. And why not, right? And this one is interesting. This one is interesting because it caught a lot of people off guard. Microsoft's new Halo boss and proper man for the job, I might add, Joseph Staten, has an answer for the popular question, what is Halo Infinite? Now, in a story that I pulled directly from Halo Waypoint, Joseph Staten had many things to say about Halo Infinite, a title that was specifically brought in to resuscitate due to many missteps in development with 343. And I think that his status quo on what he has brought when he was with Bungie, what he has done in the literary world with the Halo books, it's like one of those instances that made most Halo fans sit back in their chair and breathe a sigh of relief. There's no doubt about it. When I heard he was taking over the project, I actually walked away unbelievably excited, satisfied, worry-less, worry-free, whatever you want, however you want to spin it. I knew that with him running the show, we were going to get an incredible, well-polished, oiled machine this November. Now, here are some of the quotes from Staten regarding Halo Infinite and exactly what it is players are to expect. He said, Infinite's world is incredibly large. It's vast, Combat zones connect seamlessly to one another. Its vistas are filled with adventures that entice you to stray from the Golden Path story mission. From a distance, it might appear that we're building an open world game, but that's not really the case. We're making a Halo game, a sandbox shooter where our goal is to make you feel like the most powerful actor in a rich, emergent sci-fi combat simulation. Halo Infinite is not an RPG with crafting or hunting mechanics, but it's meant to give players the freedom to be the best super soldier they can be. If you zoom into some of this month's screenshots, you'll catch glimpses of the wildlife that inhabits the ring. Halo Infinite's campaign doesn't have a crafting system, however, and you won't spend time hunting and skinning animals to make better gear for Master Chief. Spartans wear Modulan assault armor. They don't need leather boots. That's hilarious. What you will spend time doing is plummeting from a rocky overlook into the heart of an enemy patrol, eliminating their leader with a well-struck plasma grenade, using your grapple shot to pull his power weapon off the ground and into your hands, and then empty its magazine into the rest of the remaining patrol, scattering the nearby wildlife back into the burrows. We've designed Halo Infinite so that you are freer than you've ever been to do with what Spartan super soldiers do best. Survey the battle space, plan your attack, engage the enemy, deal with whatever surprises the sandbox throws your way, and then rearm for the next battle ahead. Holy shit. Listen, Zemi, I wrote this, okay, based on what Staten said. And it just gave me goosebumps because now my hype meter went from 100 to 1,000. What are your thoughts on him explaining what we should expect with Halo Infinite? And are you even more hyped than before?
Yeah, I mean, of course I am. But I am still maintaining my hype level once again until I have my hands on that controller to play it, man. No, Joseph Staten taking over, the control of this game, I think is an excellent move. My favorite Halo books are the ones that he wrote, right? He's extremely passionate about Halo. He has a strong knowledge of Halo lore, and he's also a phenomenal writer, right? Just reading anything that Joseph Staten, Staten, puts on a page just like automatically gets me excited for Halo. But I am still under the same belief that I've been under for a while now as far as Halo goes. I need to actually play it. Is what he said, sound like it would be in my wheelhouse, that I would enjoy it? Absolutely. But I still want to actually have my hand on that controller, playing the game, seeing how the story and the graphics and the gameplay and the characters and the voice acting and every single thing, the music, all comes together to deliver that next Halo game. And I'm not going to get that feel until I actually am playing the game, right? So, of course I'm excited, but I'm also trying to hold back my excitement and really just look objectively at the game and whenever it comes out, I don't want to, put these really high expectations of what I think the game is going to be, and then it come out and it missed those expectations and I'm upset, right? So to kind of help block myself from that, does this stuff sound amazing? Absolutely it does. Is this what am I looking forward to it? Absolutely. But I'm still trying to hold back my expectations.
Boo.
Boo. Everyone in chat, say boo, Zimmy.
No. You know what? Listen, Zimmy, you're right. I mean, obviously, tempered expectations always could deliver what I think you're looking to do, and I think many people are probably in the same boat, is temper their expectations and be unbelievably and wonderfully surprised with the overall product. Which, and like I said, folks, listen, I've been hard on 343, and I think I haven't been disrespectful because one of their developers have more in their pinky nail in talent than I have in my whole body. So I don't know what it is to be a developer, but I have said said that I want them to be the best 3-4-3 that they can be, and I think we're going to get that. I think leadership is has its key points. I think Joseph Staten returning to his position in being in charge of a Halo project is going to be best, not just for this release, for all other releases as well. Well, now, whether that's side stories or additional downloadable gameplay, whatever it's going to come after the 10-year plan, which we're expecting this to continue for that long, we know that he is going to be running the show. And I think that his love of the brand is going to pour into whatever they bring us, and hopefully the 2021 November 15th release, which is what I'm calling, of which is on point with the anniversary of not only Master Chief but the Xbox itself, is going to be a big one. But Pong, let me just read one other quote from Jason Staten. Did I say Jason? You got me saying Jason. Joseph Staten, Zemi. He says this: "You have more freedom." Did I actually? Oh yeah, he said you have more freedom than ever before to choose your path through the world. Follow a hidden cave system into a well-guarded fortress. Wind your warthog through a fog-filled mountain pass. Capture a banshee and fly to a floating ring fragment across the gap of stars. A strong narrative remains at the heart of Master Chief's adventure, and your journey between story missions is entirely up to you." I gotta tell you, man, what he's putting down, I'm buying. What are your thoughts on his return and what he said during this interview on what Halo Infinite actually is?
Okay, so I always preface everything by saying that I'm a casual Halo fan. I've enjoyed all of them, but I'm not a hardcore Halo fan. So my perspective sometimes, differs a little bit because I'm not so wrapped up in, what needs to stay or what needs to go, and people's big opinions on how the Halo franchise has progressed. So I just always start out that way because I want people to understand where I'm coming from. This excites me, Boom. This first of all, let's talk about Staten coming back, and whether my perception, I should say, is that what I've seen since this has been announced, since he got back to his position, is stability coming out of 343.
Yes.
And now this could definitely be a combination of the delay and giving them another year to work on this massive important title to Xbox. I think it's a combination, a little bit of both. The pressure, was taken off of the entire team, and then you put somebody that created this franchise from the ground up and had his hand and his stories are all over it, right? And to bring him back and put him back into this high profile position, I think really has been a benefit to all of 343 and Halo itself going forward. And what we've seen coming out of them with these updates, it has been fantastic from my point of view, right? I can't wait to see. I mean, I want to see gameplay, and a lot like Zemi, I want to get it in my hands, to see what the final product is going to be like. We all do, but at the same time, I think just the information and the messaging that has come out of this, leading into what I hope is a reborn type of hype machine when it comes up to leading up to this holiday release, right? I want to see them remarket this thing fresh, brand new, started all over again. And I think this has been an eye opener to watch what's happened compared to what we saw out of last year. I know some people didn't mind what they saw out of last year. A lot of people said, hey, if they would have released it, I would have played it. It would have been a great Halo for me. I get all of that. So from the outside looking in, I am enjoying what is happening here. Now, as far as what he had to say specifically about Halo, if they truly have a 10-year plan, I think he's choosing his words very carefully here, because he does not want to get the comparisons to a lot of the open world games that have been so successful. The Fall Cry, or the Far Cries, those style of games. But I get the impression that they definitely have seen how these worlds have been successful, how they have brought communities. Let's take Division 2 for example, a strong narrative driven game, but with an open world feel where you and your buddies can go around and replay. And I'm not saying obviously Halo is not a looter shooter by any stretch of the imagination, but what I'm seeing here is that they want to bring that type of atmosphere where you can run solo, you can play through the actual story itself solo, and enjoy that Halo experience that everybody has come to love. But at the same time, you want to get a group of buddies together and you want to hop in and roll around in a Warthog, and you just want to go out and create chaos and go storm a bunch of places and create your own adventure. You're going to be able to do that in this world, and that's what excites the hell out of me, is being able to think forward when this launches. And I hope it comes true that I could be enjoying the story and going through it, and all of a sudden I've got a request come in and say, hey man, you want to go out and go destroy a bunch of bases, whatever the case may be. Let's go do that. And then they've also incorporated the freedom that a lot of games have come to do. Like when he was talking about, you can kind of choose your own way that you want to complete the mission or that you want to enter the base. That stuff is amazing and awesome. And I cannot wait to get my hands on this thing and see where it takes me. And we're not even talking about the multiplayer yet. We're not even talking about that aspect. But again, if they have this true 10-year plan where they're going to continue to expand upon this world, I personally, no matter how much he wants to say, I don't, he's tempering everybody and saying, you're not going to be crafting and doing all this kind of stuff. I get all that. But to me, this does sound open world, because as they add different expansions to this through the next 10 years, let's assume that plan goes forward, then you're going to see just them building upon this giant world on this ring. And don't discount what he said about taking off and jumping into space. I mean, if they're going to expand out, we're going to have some space travel in there too.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, everybody's fantasy, if they can make all of these things happen, man, everybody's Halo fantasies are going to be taken care of. And to me, hype levels off the chart, like you, Boom, like Zemi. I can't, I got to wait to see it in my hands and see what the final product.
Don't agree with Zemi. That's always a bad move on this show. Don't agree with Zemi.
I second that. Do not agree with me. That should be the last thing that you should ever do.
Okay. Strike my last comment. I disagree with Zemi completely. 100%. My hype's off the charts. I don't care. I don't care. I don't need to see it. But just everything that they're laying down right now is definitely driving with me. I definitely like what they're putting down right now, and I can't wait till November.
Yeah, that makes both of us. Real quick, I have to catch up on 2 super chats. First of all, Alexander Dark, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $2 super chat, and he says this: Xbox can get into China by buying Steam. Folks, that's coming. I think that's the Bethesda level of event that's happening. I don't know if it's happening this year or next year, but I think that Microsoft is going to buy Steam. I called it already. I did that the other day. Not last week. I think, was it last week or the week before? I stunned my co-hosts for Primetime Gaming. And listen, I don't know if it's going to happen. I have no inside knowledge, but I think it's going to happen. And then Michael Kullick, a generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, Chinese market just seems to too problematic to invest in. Better to place a foothold in Japan and South Korea. I mean, that's a great point. I think all markets right now are unstable, but I think that the one market that continues to make big bucks is gaming. So one market that didn't take a hit. I mean, yes, you're sure. Developers couldn't work, so we had a lot of games delayed, but the amount of money that these companies made was ridiculous. can I just take a second here? I don't want to go too far off subject because I want to go right immediately to Archimedes, or of course now the well-known Boxer Bear. Do you see what's playing on your screen? Okay, I mean, this game came out August 8th of 2017. This is running on a Series X, recorded using a 1080p capture card because that's pretty much all I have for that. I think I'm going to sit down with 3-bit and look at his because his look dope. And if we can get 4K, I think that's what I might upgrade to. But this was done by 20 people. Could you imagine what Hellblade 2 is going to look like running on your X? My God! I cannot wait. And this game, I started playing through it again. I like to play through it at least once a year. My God, Ninja Theory, what a team for Microsoft to pick up. But anyway, let me get back on the path here. Archimedes, you have put a lot of Halo footage in your videos. Obviously, you're a big fan. And what we have here is Joseph Staten basically letting the people know what they can expect. And that's kind of what I want Halo to be. Everything that he is saying is what I wanted Halo to evolve to. And it looks like we're going to get it in a big way. What are your thoughts on his comments on what Halo Infinite is?
Yeah, I really love these little pieces. Over the last months, they've always given us a constant stream of new informations, and I'm starting to build an idea of what Halo Infinite is in my mind right now. Yeah, it's not an open world game. That is obvious. It is. Probably has these open areas, yeah, where I can go to side missions, where I can go to world events. But when I start a mission, it probably becomes more linear, like we used to have the Halo games. Yeah, right. And after I finish that mission, I go back into a huge open world, or not open world, open area that I can explore.
More like a hub, kind of.
Yeah, kind of a hub. This is at least how I'm making it up in my mind right now. Yeah, this is what Halo is going to be. And the idea makes total sense, because just like Pong said, if they have a plan for like 10 years, they need to find a way to build upon this world. Yeah, and if you have such a hub, like a giant hub or open area where you can go to certain areas and then you simply start to add areas, yeah, and aerials, you can really extend that Halo ring then into whatever your plan is for the next couple of years. This would totally make sense. For them to go into a full RPG direction where you have customization of your weapons, your character, and your abilities, I think that this would be a little bit too much for Halo.
I agree.
Evolve.
I absolutely agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to have that as a spin-off game, a proper a proper RPG in the Halo universe. But you would have to change so much from what makes Halo that it isn't probably the best idea for a main Halo game. I still think there will be slight customization options, yeah, but not in a way that it's going to be a RPG where you level up your character or something like that. Yeah. I'm really excited. I do also have to admire Sammy for making the smart thing and don't get the expectations too high just yet.
Don't do it. Don't fall down a rabbit hole.
But I'm too much of a fan. I'm just excited. We have talked about 343 and its troubles extensively on this show. And I really want Halo to succeed, and I want to be this amazing experience we all want it to be. And reading stuff like that immediately gets my hopes up, even though it would be the smartest thing to temper expectations. Yeah, I can't wait. When you have seen the screenshots, how they look, the renders that they have put out, I'm super hyped for the game. Can't wait.
Yeah, no, me too. And let me just cap some of the super chats that have come in, because we've got quite a few of them, and the generosity continues to pour in. Thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. Ken Su drops not one but two $5 super chats. In his first one, he says he asked a question: Green Hell in Game Pass. I don't know what that actually is. I looked this morning. I didn't see that if that was in there. He also drops another $5 super chat and he says, or maybe on Xbox like Game Pass, or maybe a Steam on Xbox like Game Pass. Listen, if they can get if they bought Steam like I think they're going to do, you're probably going to see Xbox Game Pass be incorporated into Steam. But I think they just leave that entity alone and just let people do their thing. It's going to be an open source. You're not going to change anything. But only time is going to tell if that's going to happen. John Mitchell in the chat drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Great show, Boom. Can't wait for Halo Infinite." Dude, you and me both. 3-bit. By saying that you're a little bit of a fan of Halo would be maybe a tremendous understatement and a disservice to you as a human being. So I won't say that. You're a huge fan. You can't wait to play Halo Infinite. I can't wait, hopefully, to spank your team with Zemi and my crew in the Halo tournament happening this Saturday. But
Boom, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. Boom.
Okay, all right.
That ain't happening. You know what? Nope. We got the master team here.
We have a good team.
I'm coming for you, buddy.
We have a really good team, and I'm actually quite good in Halo. We're going to see. It's going to be fun. Yeah, folks.
I'm the weak link. I'm just talking smack.
Well, listen, I'm probably the weak link as well, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. And at the end of the day, we're all doing it as podcasters to kind of hang out, and then the prize money is going to a great cause. And I hope everyone tunes in. That's going to be a lot of fun. But 3-bit, when you hear Joseph Staten break this down, I think it's funny. His passion for the brand and his understanding of the fan base, at least for me, who doesn't know hasn't read all the books, right? I love Halo. It's one of my favorite franchises on Xbox, but there are a lot of people that really go way into the lore. I don't. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not a novice. I'm not a pro. I'm in the middle. This sounds like this game is going to be everything that anyone who loves Halo wanted. What are your thoughts on his breakdown of exactly what is Halo Infinite?
Yeah, I'm not containing any hype level for this game at all. I just can't. I love the Halo universe. I'm ready to be disappointed. Let's go. To me, I mean, what they're going for in Halo Infinite to me is a reinvention of a modern day combat evolved, as they actually have hinted at in some of their dev streams as what they're going for. The feeling you get, or at least the feeling I got when I first landed on the Halo ring in Combat Evolved.
Yes.
It was a mixture of mystery and wonder. And I know they're aiming to get that feeling back into Infinite. And if you guys remember in the first Halo, the levels in the first Halo are very open-ended. Not only did we sort of lose that over time with different levels in Halo becoming more linear, at least with the 343 titles. I remember Reach was pretty open, but they are opening it up further by making Halo Infinite a huge sandbox game. I know they want to stay away from the open world sort of a name, but Halo has always been like a sandbox, and to be a huge sandbox game and also come with like a day and night cycle now, I'm very excited. So, and I also don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid playing the first Halo, that was an open world game to me, and I was trying to explore like every inch of the ring, especially on the level Silent Cartographer. There wasn't a lot of games like Halo at the time, and to me there still isn't. I think the Halo franchise sort of lost its way over time by trying to become like other games rather than embrace the hybrid sandbox nature that is Halo. And it seems like they are trying to get it back with Infinite. And so to me, when people ask what is Halo Infinite, I'd hope it just feels like Halo. and the graphics look incredible. And as I said on the show with Zemi and Boom on the 1-in-1 show, if you were to say anything bad about the 343 games, graphics has never been a problem.
Correct. That's a great point. Yeah, great point.
Halo 4 was one of the best looking games on the 360, and Halo 5 to this day is still one of the best looking games out there. So I'm excited to explore the story. If anything, I'm excited for potential side missions, saving Marines. I'm especially excited to wreck people in multiplayer. I can't wait to see Joseph's influence on the franchise. His books, as Zemi was saying, is some of the best in the Halo lore. And I know he came a little bit later to the project, but I'm interested in seeing what his influence was. And his work on Halo 1 through Reach was pretty incredible. So I think it's definitely interesting that they seem to be going in a direction with the purpose of building additional worlds, as Halo Infinite is a service game, right? So there's a lot of potential with this title. And maybe I'm a little bit misviewed because I'm such a huge Halo fan, but I don't really care. I'm ready to play it. And I mean, there's a lot that comes with what is Halo Infinite, but to me, as I was basically saying, I think Halo Infinite to me is it's a sandbox hybrid. It's very much open levels. You can approach things how you want. Even in the older Halos, it had that sort of DNA of you have these open world levels. How do you approach this situation? It's up to you. And that's why I think Halo has just a good amount of replayability, just because you can approach it in a lot of different ways. And with Infinite, it seems like they're giving you even more more options with that. So I'm excited to play it, and I want to see more gameplay with it. I'm glad they're releasing these snippets of like pictures and showing people like, hey, look, we touched up the graphics here, and check this out here. I love the teases, but I need a little bit more.
Yeah, you know what I mean. To your point, if you think about when he rejoined 343, it was in August. Right. This was directly after the hubbub, if you will, with what happened at the July showcase. Safe Space Invader. Love the name. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he says, hyped for Halo. Have you ever heard of a game getting polished for over a year? Great decision to delay and put that extra development time in. Indeed. And that's exactly my point. If you go from point to point, if you go from July to July, which we're still quite a few months away from happening, that's going to be a full year. But if you go from July to November, folks, you're talking about 15 months of polish and additional footage to be redone. You know what I'm saying? So I think that obviously, if you read some more of the interview, which I have in the show notes, if you want to read it for yourself, Joseph said that he has played the game back to front multiple times, and he loves everything about the game. He loves the story that they're telling. So for me, him coming in there and him saying that, I mean, I know he's going to toe the line, but at the same time, if they're not making any major changes, then the story is going to be quite fine. The graphics are what a lot of people had a problem with, and I think that with 15 months of polish, I've never heard of such a thing. I don't think I don't think we've ever heard a big AAA game get 6 months worth of polish, but 15, no. And I think what we're going to get is an incredible, well-detailed Halo, unlike anything we've ever seen before, and I honestly can't wait. Let's get VJ's final opinion. VJ, obviously, we saved the best for last. Joseph Staten had a lot to say, and I think the way he broke it down, again, coming from a medium fan, not a novice, not a pro, but someone that is in the middle that loves Master Chief and loves what Halo represents, not only to me, but to the community and the Xbox community. He broke it down, to me anyway, from a fan's perspective, and he made it understandable on what they're trying to do. I'm even more hyped. It gave me goosebumps reading his words. What are your thoughts?
I had a lot of fun and engagement with Cyberpunk, which I guess can be termed or given the designation of a sandbox shooter, narrative-driven RPG. If from what I've understand correctly, if Halo indeed provides, a similar striking and engaging experience that it's claiming to offer, provide, and tender, then I guess I've got no complaints. I'm happy with Joseph's description and sort of wholehearted pledge of a strong narrative accompanying the main game experience itself. In the absence of doubt, my personal hope is that, you know, I will enjoy it as much as I'm enjoying my current first dozen hours or so with Obsidian's Outer Worlds. Got too many shameless plugs here, Boom. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right.
So I think 3-Bit touched on a few sort of important points, and but first and foremost, please understand and please note is that my opinion is coming from the perspective of complete outsider to Halo Infinite, and someone who's not sort of enraptured or emotionally attached to or with what the Halo franchise sort of means to so many in general. Just a quick point on the visuals. I know we're short on time, so I'll keep all this brief. As a point on the visuals, and I was discussing this last night, you know, and again, this thing rears its ugly head. Are graphics everything when it comes to video games? Of course not. Is visual design, animation, ambience, and artistry, and so many other facets that make up a video game that eventually sort of combine together and capture your heart, mind, spirit, conscious, and subconscious mind important? Absolutely. It's an incontrovertible truth for so many of us, or I would say the vast majority of gamers. So let's say the gameplay is outstanding, then I think that Halo Infinite then has to do two things, visually speaking, for at least two different audiences. It has to be either visually passable, good enough, respectable, adequate, even to, and for me anyway, to keep the legacy generation of supporters and fans engaged, to keep them happy, if not absolutely, totally delighted and enthralled. So now, and I think this is where this sort of issue of visuals is coming from. It's from a different generation of gamers as well, that in my short observation, I'm not an expert, this is completely layman's perspective, I'm not an expert in any shape, way or form, that they have a different prerequisite, Boom, as to what and how a game should be full stop, right? And this particular audience, from just again, my short observation is made up of some very frivolous, flippant, fickle gamers that vacillate and dither constantly, not just over Halo, but so many different games. And I think, as I said to you before on the show when we were talking about reviews and just jumping into Game Pass and picking up games that haven't been molested by the media, so to speak, and just how exciting and incredible that they can be. And I've just spent 140 hours, you know, in Hollow Knight. You know, I disappeared for 2 weeks, other than being on the show. That wasn't the reason why I wasn't on it last week, but I just want to make that clear. But just to wrap up. In summary, Boom, Halo Infinite, if anything, has to be irrepressibly exquisite and the personification of all that is being pledged and promised in order to meet expectations. In certain quarters, for sure, if not the 4 quarters of the world for me, since that's how I perceive the value and global appeal of this particular IP brand and franchise. Joseph, and I've said this before on the show, Boom, when he came out with that end of year blog with so many leaders also mentioned within that interview, and it was quite extensive, and we did cover it on the show. And I said to you, Boom, the guy is laying out his reputation on the ground, not just for us, but for the whole industry, right?
Yep.
Pinning his reputation. And so when I see that, and I see in the glowing regards in terms of how he's representing Halo Infinite, and you have to say from a position of strength, because the guy's played it, right? And he's, as you said, many people say, oh, the game's got a year's worth of development to it and it'll improve. I'm just glad in terms of what you said, because this is what I've been saying, is that, you know, a year isn't a long time in game development, but it's a hell of a long time when you're polishing up a product. And maybe 3-Bit can chime in here, because obviously I've been out of the industry for a little while, and maybe I've got a few cobwebs in my brain. But at the end of the day, who the hell are we to argue with him? So I wish him good luck and Godspeed, and that's all from me.
Yeah, well, great stuff as always. And listen, this has been a strong show. And obviously, we had almost 500 people here, folks, which is incredible. That tells me that we are doing the right thing for you, and you tune in. Of course, I have to thank everyone's generosity through the super chat. Michael Kullick, as a matter of fact, drops an outstanding $10 super chat just now, and he says, wasn't referring to stability of the market, Boom, regarding China, mainly pointing at the government. Okay, now it makes more sense. No concerns on that. Japan and South Korea, keep up the good work, guys. Well, thanks so much, Michael. Definitely appreciate you being here. And of course, thank you for your generosity as always. So let's get into the outros. We'll get everyone out of here. And of course, thank you so much for supporting this dream of mine. I never intended to do 4 shows, but it morphed into it. And quite frankly, I'm doing as much shows as I am playing games, and I'm loving it. And I love that there's an audience that actually wants to hear it. That's even more exciting for me. But Zemi Games, tell everyone about where they can boo you on social media, but more importantly, check out your incredible new venture in the constantgamer.com. This is a site that I hold right up there with the lordsofgaming.net. It's a site for gamers, by gamers, and one you should definitely be getting your news from. Zemi, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main thing that I'm doing anymore is I'm currently building and growing a site called constantgamer.com. It's a news gaming media website similar to Kotaku or IGN. The only difference is that we try to be absolutely objective in our reporting and really separate what actually happened from how we feel about what actually happened, right? Which is something that a lot of, sites in gaming media just tend not to do. And so, that's one of the biggest ways that we really separate ourselves from those other gaming media websites. In addition to covering gaming news, doing reviews, doing featured articles, we also have a community section on the site where we post quizzes. I'm still working on the Mass Effect quiz, and so that should hopefully be out here relatively soon. And then Mr. Boomstick, he's also working on a preview article for Resident Evil 8, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely check out the website. Once again, it's constantgamer.com. And if you've ever been interested in writing for a gaming media website, all you have to do is just click on the contact us button, then click on join the team, fill out a short application, and I will get right back at you. That's definitely something that we're still looking for, is just more writers, to help, keep gaming media objective, and then also to share your opinions and featured articles and stuff like that. So feel free to go and check out the site.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much. Real quick, shout out to Gone Mad in the chat. He says, hit that like button. And yes, I would greatly appreciate it. Believe you me, I understand that, if you don't have the funds to drop a super chat, listen, we don't do this for money, folks. We do this for the passion and the love of community, love of gaming. But the one thing that won't cost you a dime, that literally is as easy as picking a booger out of your nose, is hitting the like button. Hopefully you don't do that, but hopefully you do hit the like button. It really does. I mean, you don't understand the work that we put into these shows. It does put us in the unbelievably hard to understand algorithm that is YouTube, and the more likes you get, the better these shows get put out there. So I would definitely appreciate that if you like it, at least hit the like button. If you want to help further, if you really want to go crazy, put this out on social media. Tell everyone about Double Barrel Gaming, and more specifically about the Xbox Factor podcast. It does help people come to this, where this is a positive place, right? This is a positive space that talks about gaming. Yes, we are critical at times, but we're not abusive. We don't do things for clicks here. We do things for, again, the love of community and the love of gaming. Pong Soul, you've been very busy. Not only have you been guesting on this show, you're kind of working on some other shows as well. Tell everyone about where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, check out where they can listen to some more of your incredible opinions.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for the invite, Boom. I never take them for granted, and I appreciate it always. So it was awesome to be here. Zemi, 3-Bit, Archimedes, and especially as president of the VJ fan club, this was a special show to finally get on with the guy that I idolize. So this was an amazing show. You guys were all fantastic as always. Chat, man, you guys were lighting it up today. A lot of great conversations going on in there. And again, appreciate all of you always coming out and supporting these shows, just like I do. It's fantastic to see so many familiar faces, and love you guys all. Thank you again. You can find me Pong Soul everywhere. I am on Xbox Ultimate on Friday nights starting at 9 p.m. Eastern with Fun Speculation, aka Mav, Caitlin, 3-Bit, of course, my good buddy here. And obviously, we hope soon the return of Assassin Lupa. Again, prayers go out to her as well. So many in this community is having issues right now, and we hope that everybody stays safe and gets healthy. And then you can also find me on the Shop Podcast every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with the incredible PTK Blam, Fuzzy Belvedere, Centurion, and Stagorilla. Nice, quick, fast, fun show. Usually lasts just over an hour, so come check us out Saturday nights. Otherwise, you never know. Again, as I always say, you just never know where I'm going to show up next.
Well, it's great to have you a part of this show, and we love having you, brother. And you always bring the passion, you always bring the excitement, and you always bring incredible thoughts and theories to every episode that you're on. So thank you for being here. And of course, we're going to go next to Boxer Bear, who now has his name changed from formerly known as Prince to Boxer Bear, thanks to Boom, not realizing that I changed his freaking name. I cannot believe it. Archimedes, man, you've been doing some great work. You just passed 3,000 followers on Twitter. That's a big deal. And of course, your channel exploding. First of all, tell everyone about that video you put out of the hype video for what's coming to Xbox, because that took a long time and it was incredibly done.
Oh yeah, I put out a Xbox roadmap trailer. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds long, but it took me more than 4 hours to edit that thing.
It's your best work yet, I'll tell you that.
Appreciate it, thank you. Yeah, but it was a slow news week, and I was thinking about doing such a trailer for a long time, and I thought that is the right week to do that. And yeah, it's been getting great clicks. I got great feedback, so I really appreciate that. And if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. You can find my channel at Boxenberger, not Box A Bear, although I might think about a rebrand. Yeah, you can find that channel here on YouTube, and of course the same on Xbox, PlayStation, and of course on Twitter. Like you said, today I had passed the 3,000 followers count there. It's amazing to see that people actually want to hear what I have to say about gaming. I'm still surprised about that. So thank you so much for all the interactions and the discussions. And yeah, I'm really, really honored to be a part of this amazing community, and seeing how many gamers in our community go through a rough time right now. We talked about DC earlier. Assassin Lupa was mentioned. A couple of others are going through a rough patch, and I just see how the community really sticks together. This is makes me honored to be a part of this. So yeah, don't want to digress too much. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been a blast, like always. And yeah, see you guys next week.
Yep. Well, thanks so much for being here, brother, and definitely appreciate the work that you do. 3-Bit, tell everyone about where they can reach out to you on social media. Check out your outstanding and growing YouTube channel, and what other programs are you a part of?
Yeah, this was a great show. Always great to be on the show with my brother Pong, and everyone here had amazing topics. Y'all brought your A game today, and I always like being on the show with you guys. So appreciate it. And you guys can follow me on Twitter. It's at the VGHD. I just got a pretty good capture card, so I'll be streaming a lot more. I'm doing a sort of interview video with myself, my sister today, so we'll see what happens with that. If you guys want to watch different shows I'm here on The Factor every Thursday. I'm on Xbox Ultimate with Pong, Mav, and Caitlin, as Pong said. There's an amazing show coming up with Four Guys with Quarters. I'll be in there featuring Jimmy Palmiotti. Sorry if I butchered his name. He's a writer for Harley Quinn, and that show will have some pretty great surprises. That will be on the 11th. Yeah, a lot of shows. A lot of shows. I'm on Fun Pop Fridays. So yeah, so thanks so much. you guys. This is a great show. I'm gonna have to destroy Zemi on Saturday.
Come at me, bro. Come at me.
Especially because he's an elite, and I can't forgive the elite race for what they've done in the first Halo game. So
holy matrimony.
I'll see
The prejudice. The prejudice here.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, listen, it's great to have you on a part of the show each and every week, brother. Definitely love the work that you do in the community and love what you're going to be doing this Saturday and helping us support iDizzy's family by getting involved in this incredible Halo competition, friendly competition. And last, and in no way least, of course, the most well-versed man on the panel, VJ. Tell everyone about what other shows you're doing, what you got going on, and where could people reach out to you and potentially learn a thing or three with your outstanding and well-versed vocabulary on social media.
Yeah, just a suggestion, Boom. Could we have Pong Soul on more often? Because
absolutely, yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Because even my wife doesn't lavish me with such exquisite compliments. Yeah. Yeah. But I want to congratulate our comedians on reaching 3,000 followers. I just noticed that on Twitter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Boom. And sorry if I went off topic. That's
not at all. Listen, dude, this is a conversational podcast, and you know something. When people are expected to come here, have fun, and if having fun is to get your point across by not just saying, "Yeah, I agree with everything that Boom just said," we want to hear it. So don't apologize, bro.
No, I know I have this propensity to sort of go off on tangents, and I do try to sort of marshal myself, but it's sometimes difficult because it's just the panel's so dynamic, right? So absolutely. And yeah, I can be found on Stubbs midweek gaming show on a Wednesday on occasion, and of course on the Xbox Factor podcast show on a Thursday. And thanks again, Boom, for the opportunity to be on your show.
Well, it's great to have you each and every week, dude. Well, we love having you here. We love everyone who brings, you know, their passionate opinions about Xbox. That's what you want here. Nothing is forced. Nothing is false. And I think the fans know that, and the community understands that, and that's why we had almost 500 people here on a Thursday mid-afternoon. But listen, folks, this has been a great show. Thank you again for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. I hope to see everyone here back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as we, break down some of the bigger topics for the week, with King David making his triumphant return, along with, of course, the Breakfast with Boom crew that you know and love. But listen, I'm going to close up the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my father taught us when we were young, and I think now more than ever, it's super important to treat others how you want to be treated, and also it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. Oh, wait a second. We had 2 super chats that came in. Let me just read those on the air, because if I miss them, I'm going to be mad as hell. We had Snakewood drop an outstanding $5 super chat. Snakewood, thank you for being here, brother, and thank you for the $5 super chat. And Smitty Smith drops an outstanding, I love it, a box, a bear. I love it. See, I ruined you, Archimedes.
Told you.
Thanks, Smitty Smith, for the additional $2 super chat. But listen, folks, enjoy the rest of your day. Please take heed. COVID is still a thing. Even if you got your shot, take it easy, wear a mask, be careful of where you're going. Don't let your guard down, because it just takes 1 second to have your life changed forever. And please, be nice to one another, man. I mean, I think this world does not have enough niceties going on, and the world kind of sucks right now. So don't be one of those people. Be a good guy or a good gal. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.